acquired the lot next to them, and then they combine those lots, and generally that's been the trend as far as increasing that square footage of lot coverage. Our current code is 1,200 up to an acre. After an acre, each additional acre, it's 250 square feet for every half acre. Our last meeting, this board asked that we have this discussion. Based on the discussion here today, I will take that information and share it with the Planning and Zoning Board. They are the board that will move things forward if they choose so as a board and bring it to the City Commission, which that's the approval process. So I don't know that, I believe we've denied some accessory structures based on the lack of a permit, the lack of the structure meeting the building code. That's, I believe, probably the only time that we've actually, this board has declined an applicant's request for additional accessory structures. I asked staff to actually look at other communities that bring forth. Everybody has their little own take on it. I asked staff to see what we'd like to actually see. Our minimum residential lot is 7,000 square feet. You can actually, besides the house, you can have a 1,200 detached structure on that lot. The next, I think, well, it is 7,500 square foot for a larger lot, for a R1 zone lot. That's generally what they are right now. Most of them are larger, 8,500 square feet, 10,000 square feet. So we're looking for your recommendations. We actually, maybe we look at it still at the 7,000, keeping it at the 1,200 square feet. Once we go to 14,000, maybe that's where that 14,000, essentially a double lot, which this board has approved at that 2,400 square foot and up to an acre. And then after that acre, look at possibly increasing, whether we use that same formula of the 250 for every half acre. I don't believe that has been a really big issue, but or if we actually stop at that acre, 5 acres, 10 acres. At that point, I think we're getting out in the county, and the county has their own regulations for accessory structures. With that said, I'll look for comments.
We're working on a subdivision right now that's going to be 2 to 5 acre lots, and of course you start getting to 5 acre lots, and then you can have what, up to 3 horses or something on that, 1 to 3 or something.
Yes.
And so now you're talking about possibly a barn plus an accessory structure. So I could see where that could potentially come into a situation. Now, we have some of that up north, like in the Rochelle subdivision. Now I know there's some barns and maybe on a lot or two. I don't know if there's a lot of them in there, but do we know what square footage they have, or has that all been well established?
I do not have any documentation of what is out
See
there.
if there's anything.
And in the time the city wasn't doing some of the county permits, we are finding some where there's larger structures on. And some of those actually came in front of this board because they were out of code compliance. There could be more out there.
I guess I would like to see a different graduated scale a little bit. You know, the 250 for a half acre seems a little bit light to me, maybe. I mean, people get bigger properties, they have more stuff, and that's what we're seeing here, and we approve all these variances, it seems like. The 1,200 on a 7,000 square foot lot, that may even be too big for that size lot. You start getting to lot coverage with that in a house. I don't know, what is it, 50% in a residential lot for coverage, or?
Well, it goes up depending on the zoning district. It's at 40% and it goes up to 70% for building coverage for R3, from R1 to R3.
Okay, but most R1
you will never,
R2, it's lower than 70.
Yes. In rural residential, you'll never make that percentage of building coverage.
Right. So it seems to me to make sense. Even when it was 2,400, we counted the garage on the house,
We subtracted the,
but code said accessory structure, and we made the determination that accessory structure included the garage on the house,
yes,
even though it's part of the main structure.
yes.
So there was somewhat of an interpretation.
Well, you can look
There.
at it both ways, from the municipal code side or the building code side. On the building code side, it's accessory to the primary use. So it's depending on how you look or use the wording, yes.
I don't know, I think I'm the one who brought it up at the last meeting, because it seemed like we're getting a lot of these, and technically it should be a hardship, and definition of a hardship to me is a hard one to understand when it comes to accessory structures per se. You know, people, it's a hardship to have your car parked outside, but all the new car dealerships have all their cars parked outside. And implement dealers have all their stuff parked outside. Campers have all their stuff. So is it really a hardship if you can't park your stuff inside, you know? I think people doing this clean up neighborhoods, clean up yards by getting stuff off the street, you know, and we've had some of those complaints, so I think if the lot size is there, we should be considering maybe something different.
I would agree with you. If you have ideas as far as what you'd like to see, so I could bring it to the planning and zoning, open to suggestions.
I mean, I have a question. When I think we had this conversation a long time ago when I was on this board, just a little bit. And back then, like the main concern everybody brought up was business use out of an accessory structure in a residential neighborhood was the reason they always gave to not have a bigger detached structure allowed.
Well, the code would protect the neighborhoods on that. Again, it would be something, it's code compliance.
Yeah.
We do have some of those issues that we're working on right now, people operating businesses from their home without a special use permit. Those are things that will be coming, I believe we're working on some of those cases right now. But this would not change that. The thing I think of is, you've seen it on the news networks, shop houses. I believe the code will have to change to suit our environment. So these discussions are going to be helpful in moving those changes forward.
I guess I'm leaning more towards what Sean's bringing up as either like a higher graduated accessory structure size, or I guess to me it's a little hard to understand why on a 7,500 square foot lot, whatever the lot coverage is okay from the city, but if you have a 14,000 square foot lot, you can't have the same lot coverage. Like, I realize we don't want 4,000 square foot accessory structures in town, per se, but I mean, if the lot coverage is a certain percentage on a certain size lot, just because you have a bigger lot shouldn't change a lot of that stuff. Like, I understand we have to put a limit on them, but I mean, like, you get to a 4.5 acre lot, a 6,000 square foot accessory structure you're not going to notice on, where a 7,000 square foot lot you're going to notice a 1,200 square foot garage. Like, to me, it's a little, I don't understand the limit of limiting it as much when you have a bigger size lot.
Always with setting up codes, there's not a one thing fits all.
Yeah.
So we do our best to try to accommodate the mass. So again, open to ideas. When you start putting in percentages in it, what I don't want to do is create a code that it's going to be open to interpretation.
Sure. Yeah.
As far as what percentage of this, things that come in are going to be height, and it may be percentage of the lot coverage depending on the setback. There's so many formulas that you can apply to this, but we don't want to make it so difficult that it takes a computer program to figure out what you can and cannot do. When the applicant calls in and say, what can I do? We want to give them that answer right now. And based on a lot coverage, if we can actually do a chart, some of the other communities actually have a chart out here, and that's what we'll reference. But if this board has some recommendations, I'll move those forward. I do believe that the height of a detached structure, depending on the setback, we already have that in our code. If it's set back, you get for every 2 feet on addition to the regular setback, you get an additional foot in height. But reference to for your house, we want things to be aesthetically pleasing also. That is part of our city municipal code, to make our city look nice.
Yeah, and the height is probably more concerning to me. Like I think the height should be for sure, obviously at or lower than the main part of the house, and then, the setbacks for the height I think are more concerning than the size, I guess, for me. I mean, if I'm a neighbor, I'm more concerned of a 16-foot wall next to me than a big garage structure that I can't see if it's in the backyard. I also think it helps, anytime we have a building, accessory structure building helps clear vehicles off the street. There's a lot of neighborhoods where there is only one parking spot in front of a house throughout the whole neighborhood, or maybe there's very few. So anytime we get stuff off the street, that helps for being able to park in the neighborhood, snow removal, all that sort of stuff. So I guess for me, I think the more we can get off the street into buildings, the better the streets. Snow removal would be easier, it would look better, it'd be easier. I mean, sometimes people park pretty close to the corners, just there's a lot of advantages to not having a bunch of things parked on the street.
And utilizing the accessory structure for that use. We also, again, not that it's totally out of our control, so we have to do this in a manner that fits, services the public. Because we do have some of our code compliance issues is using your main garage. It's not for the storage of a vehicle. Yeah. I mean, it's, again, what you do with your personal property, that's your business, but to clean up for the reason for a larger accessory structure, I totally concur with your comments.
Well, I'd be happy to put some thoughts together and get you some ideas. I really see it in the 7,000 square foot to the 1 acre lots. There seems to be a lot more, and they get the same thing because it goes up to 1 acre. That's quite a bit larger than those smaller lots when you start thinking it's 6 times the size and you get the same benefits.
So, and even that number, if we look at a 10,000 square foot lot at 2,400, that's where it would kick in probably, because or at that 14,000. So it's 2 minimum size residential lots. If you put 2 lots together, that's what actually you would get per code if somebody came in front of this board. We're essentially granting that to actually make it so they wouldn't have to come in front of this board for those requests. I believe is a good idea. But please send me your comments.
Pat, do you have any comments?
No, I'm kind of looking at this as Sean here. I mean, I think that he has a good handle on it, and it's to me it would be if you have a larger lot, you have more ability to put more building up, and some type of a formula in there. I'm not sure what that is, but that would be my thought as well.
One other additional thing, as Pat was speaking here, is as location of the accessory structure on a lot also. To put an accessory structure right on the lot line, that essentially impacts the neighbors based on the size or the aesthetics of it, I think should probably be looked at also.
And I have, you probably know my situation.
Yes, that's what.
I have this 16-foot wall 6 feet away from my property, and I look at that every time a wind comes up. Am I going to find this thing in my living room one day? So I know that that has gone by, and I think things have changed since then, but that's an important item.
Any other thoughts? Trevor, any other thoughts?
No, I think, as we, either like a minimum lot size where it graduates up, or some way to take it into account, because I completely agree with Sean and see that, like a a double lot, or, as you get a little bit over the minimum, or even two lots, you have quite a bit of land there to put accessory structures where it really doesn't affect the neighbors at all, especially if the height and the setback stuff is very, if you set it back far enough and the height isn't any taller than the house, it doesn't affect anybody really, if it's a 1,200 or 2,600 square foot detached structure. The smaller lots, I don't think you can really change. I think some of those are pretty congested the way it is when we approve them. But it does help in some of the older neighborhoods where they do have smaller lots because they don't have a accessory structure at all, allowing it sometimes 3 feet away from the lot line so they can get an accessory structure. So I don't know how you consider that also, because I think every time we've got one of those to this board, we've always voted that it's better to allow the accessory structure, even if it is 3 feet away from the lot, like off of an alley in an older neighborhood, than to not allow it at all. So some sort of formula to take into account, the way lots were designed. But if you get a good formula going forward for new, I think you'll get developments to take that into account and make the lot size what you want to fit the accessory structures, and we'll have less coming in here.
Anything else for them, Sean? Okay,
No,
you're gonna put some thoughts together,
I have some, but I'll put them together on paper
and anyone else that does too.
and send them to you for future discussion. Appreciate you looking at it.
Yeah. Okay, anything else? If not, do we have anything on the books for next month? Good. Good. Okay. Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion by Trevor, second by Pat. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Next month's agenda is Frisco, isn't it?
First trip, I hope, is to Frisco, and